Ladies and gentlemen, I have a friend by the name of Father Elijahcal who does a lot of videos about Fallout. He does a lot of reactions to other people's videos, as well as delving into some of the lore of Fallout New Vegas, as well as recently some of the lore on Fallout 3. I do have some of my own opinions that I would like to put forward about Fallout 3, but I'll save those for another video. For today, we're going to follow in his reaction format footsteps by reacting to a man by the name of Dashing David. Dashing David made a video a few years back about Fallout New Vegas. A video simply called I Hate Fallout New Vegas. Let's have a look into it and see why he hates it and see if he has any valid points.
God damn it, YouTube, I fucking hate Fallout New Vegas.
That's a hell of a way to start a video, ladies and gentlemen. After this he rolls an intro which I'm not going to put in. There's music in it and I have concerns whether it may be copyrighted. Also, it's one of those weird dubstep intros and we don't do that kind of thing around here.
Alright, so obviously I don't hate Fallout New Vegas, the game.
So you're outright admitting that your video title is a fucking lie. I score you 10 out of 10 for looking like a cock.
But I'm really starting to turn on the community for Fallout New Vegas.
And why would that be? Did Fallout New Vegas fans throw your cat through a blender?
These days, they're just like praising it like it's the ultimate game.
Citations needed. You don't show any screenshots in your video. You just seem to be making things up, my man. Whilst I would say that Fallout New Vegas is a really good game, I would not say it was the ultimate nor the best game ever. And that's me talking as a diehard New Vegas fan. In fact, my ultimate game of all time would probably go to Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri or perhaps Sid Meier's Railroad Tycoon, because that's how much of a geeky nerd I am.
You can't even talk about like other Fallouts without people like, you talk about Fallout 3, they're like, well, Fallout New Vegas was better. You talk about Fallout 4, Fallout New Vegas was better.
Fallout New Vegas is better. Of course, I'm not just saying that to be a dick, ladies and gentlemen. I'm saying that because it's my opinion. Presuming from this man's accent, he's from the US&A. And in the US&A, people are allowed to freely speak their minds and, well, as he is allowed to criticize them as well, but there's nothing wrong with people saying that they like the thing that you don't like.
Talk about the story of either of those games. Fallout New Vegas' story was better, which is not fucking true.
In my own personal opinion, Fallout New Vegas has a storyline which is better than Fallout 3 and is better than Fallout 4. I will note that Fallout 4 has a few rather derivative of other media sources type storyline that is okay. But the thing is, your Bethesda boy who did all the story stuff went on record as saying, and I believe the quote goes somewhere along the lines of, when it comes to story writing, don't bother because all the players will do is they'll rip the pages out of the storybook and they'll make paper aeroplanes with it and just like throw them away. That's what your story writer for Fallout 3 and 4 thinks about writing stories. He's obviously a man that doesn't give a fuck.
And you're going to give this book, this great American novel, to the player. And what are they going to do with it? They're going to rip out every page and make paper airplanes out of them. And they're going to throw them around the room. And they're never going to see your story. Because the story is there, right? But they are going to spend 30 hours making shacks. Okay? They're going to spend 20 hours looking for bobbleheads.
You're talking about games where the basic storylines revolve around chase after someone, chase after your son, chase after your dad, chase after the owner of the vault.
To be honest, Fallout New Vegas' story is really lackluster, especially compared to 3 or 4.
I feel that as a story, Fallout New Vegas and the sheer amount of political intrigue involved in it, the tiptoeing the lines between different factions. I try and keep the peace as much as possible when I'm playing it until I finally make a swift and decisive move in whichever direction I want to go. It's from the gradually finding out more about the Legion, the discovering how beleaguered the NCR is, the finding out more about the dam and what happened there. I find the story of New Vegas to be quite compelling.
They have actually, I think 3's story is pretty good. A lot of people hate on it. Fallout 4 story was obviously good in theory. It just didn't work for a Fallout game.
I believe that Fallout 3 truly shines in its side quests and world exploration aspects. The story is very linear. Essentially, find your dad, oh, he's dead now. Well, go and work for the Brotherhood of Steel and win the game for them, defeat the Enclave for them, and either let the remaining member of the Enclave, their commanding officer, either leave or kill him. I didn't find that particularly interesting. When I play Fallout 3, I play the main storyline to get it out of the way. And then I go and explore the world, and I like all the little stories that are happening in the areas around it. The quest involving Ian West, Oasis, the Wasteland Survival Guide. Those are the main parts of Fallout 3 that stick out for me, as well as some of the DLC. As for what you say about Fallout 4 not really fitting in with the Fallout world, I would probably agree with that. I view the story to be rather like Star Trek Deep Space Nine. The Dominion, a empire run by shapeshifters who can assume humanoid form. They would gradually sneak into political positions of power and pretend to be generals of the Klingon Empire, admirals of Starfleet. In a post-apocalyptic world, I don't think there's much of a need for synthetic humanoids to be assuming roles of power in a world like that. There's literally nothing left after the bombs have fallen. This institute would be better either disbanding or simply remaining where they are to get on with their whatever it is they do.
New Vegas' story is just, I got shot in the head, let me find out why, platinum chip, big fight at the end of the game.
In all honesty, I think you're being rather unfair there, especially because your Fallout 3 is find dad, dad's dead, fix water purifier with big robot, game over. Or get someone else to fix purifier, game over. Let's adjust your little potted history of New Vegas there, shall we? How's about get shot, wake up, get to Vegas, find out what's going on, decide who you want to be friends with, smite your enemies, and then have a big fight at the end, alongside whatever friends you've decided to bring along with you, whilst similarly potted. I do think my quotation there has given a lot more justice to the game.
That's the story for Fallout New Vegas. Of course, there's choices. You get to choose who, like, in what direction you want to take the story. It can be, independent New Vegas. You can join Mr. House, NCR, Legion. In that regard, of course, New Vegas has a good story. But the actual, the core story of New Vegas is not really that interesting.
I'm glad that you went into the choices that are available to the player. At least you've done some justice to the game. In Fallout 3, there was no such choices. It was essentially, you're the Brotherhood of Steel's bitch now that your dad's dead. Deal with it. New Vegas, to a certain extent, allows you a great deal of freedom over where the story goes and what it does.
Whereas with Fallout 3, you're kind of chasing down your dad across the wasteland, trying to figure out, pick up his trail, where is he at? He eventually sacrificed himself to save you and everybody else, and then you're trying to purify the water for the wasteland, which I think is a good story. That's the short version. Obviously, there's more to the story than that.
The thing is, there's not, though. That's literally the story of Fallout 3 is go and find your dad. Oh no, he's dead now. Now you're the Brotherhood of Steel's bitch. And let's follow the big robot for 20 minutes and go and have a showdown with a dude in a room who just takes a couple of shots to kill if you decide to kill him, or he just like wanders off if you talk him down and disappears, and the ending doesn't feel satisfying, in my opinion. Of course, I haven't factored in the DLC to that, ladies and gentlemen. In the Broken Steel add-on, the Brotherhood of Steel questline continues, and you continue to fight the Enclave.
But I think it's an actual decent story, whereas Fallout New Vegas is just kind of like, who shot me?
That's not the story at all. In fact, you can even totally bypass the man that shot you if you side with the NCR. And it's not really who shot me, is it? You see the man in the cutscene at the start, unless you're a bit of a lazy gamer that skips cutscenes.
And I'm with the majority of the community about Fallout New Vegas being the better of the three like open world 3D games. But it's starting to get to the point where people are really, starting to talk shit a lot about Fallout 3. I've seen a lot of people on Facebook and Twitter and shit like that hating on Fallout 3.
Citations needed? Evidence? Screenshots? Or are you just making up the porky pies?
Without realizing the game's... You gotta remember, the game's almost 10 years old at this point.
So you're pulling out the old, if something's a bit old, you're not allowed to criticise it. You're not allowed to criticise the Tempest in Shakespeare class anymore, ladies and gentlemen. It's more than 10 years old. You can't criticise something that's more than 10 years old. This is hundreds of years old, written 1500s, and yeah. I guess that makes Will Shakespeare's works immune to criticism. Let's close down all of the Shakespearean theatres and Shakespearean classes. I don't think that's how the US free speech, is it the First Amendment? I don't think that's how that works.
Not to the date, obviously. It'd be like October 23rd or something like that. 2018 would be 10 years. But it's almost a decade old. You gotta remember that it's Bethesda's first time with the game.
It's Bethesda's first time with the game. You want to know what else? You want to know another inconvenient fact about Bethesda? Bethesda's been on the planet for almost as long as I have. Bethesda's been formed in 1986, I believe. And what you're doing is you're defending a company's mistakes and issues and errors when they've been around for a very long time, and they should know better when it comes to game design, bugs, engines, shoddy story writing. I really feel that in the view of that, the sheer amount of experience that they have, that's almost indefensible. They should know better. People who defend the bugs and errors and glaring issues that Bethesda games have should really be thinking that, wait a minute, these guys are supposed to be pros, but they're actually clowns. They should be doing a lot better. It's not good enough. If you worked in a manufacturing company building a car, and you built a very shitty, shoddy car that fell apart when it came out of the factory, you wouldn't just go, lol, there's a couple of bugs in it. You'd be fired.
They transitioned it from a top-down isometric game to a full 3D open-world game.
They didn't really, though, did they? They merely altered a game engine and assets they were already using for the Elder Scrolls series, and they put guns into it. Apologies, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe I'm being a little bit basic this time, but that's merely what Fallout 3 is essentially the conversion of their Elder Scrolls engine into a post-apocalyptic wasteland and altering the weapons within it to be more gun-based weapons rather than bows and arrows, swords, etc. Creating creatures to populate this new world with. Buildings, cityscapes, etc. I won't deny the fact that they obviously put a fair deal of work into it, but it was simply repurposing something they already had. It wasn't fully transitioning something into something else. I would view it as more akin to kit bashing or perhaps Lego.
Like, you gotta remember all these factors, it's not gonna be a perfect game.
Oh, no one expects a perfect game. But what they do expect is, shall we say, a certain level of quality, which, in Fallout 3, the main storyline didn't seem to hit that quality note. Fallout 4, Fallout 76, bug-wise, quality didn't seem to hit that note that the people were looking for.
And people will make the argument about Obsidian having the short time to make New Vegas versus how long they had to make Fallout 3. And you're right. I've said that before on my channel as well. But you also got to remember that they went into Fallout New Vegas with, the everything that's been created for Fallout 3. Because if you look at like the character models, they're very similar. They even have some of the same voice actors, if I'm not mistaken. So it's really they took things from Fallout 3 and just added new stuff to it.
He does have a partial point here, ladies and gentlemen. This does fall back into the kit-bashing Lego analogy again. However, Obsidian did do a lot of extra work to add more things into the engine, into the game as a whole. They did more than simply rebuild the Lego set. They made their own blocks. They made their own stuff to put into it. Was there quality issues? Yes. Was there bugs? Yes. They were able to patch these issues, but that timescale, that time frame was far too tight for even putting together a game that you had essentially the sandbox, the box of blocks to build.
What I mean by that exactly is like they didn't necessarily build it from the ground up. Obviously the world is probably new. It's nothing like Fallout 3's world. But like they have, similar character models, buildings, weapons, things like that were in Fallout 3, and they just added more variants to guns, more variants to enemies, shit like that.
You're not reinforcing your point, you're shooting your own point down. You're saying that they made the game in a certain amount of time and they did a lot of work. What are you getting at?
And I'm not even looking at this through like nostalgia goggles or nothing. Like, of course there's some nostalgia for Fallout 3. It was the first one for a lot of us. It's what got me into the series and everything.
Same here.
But I'm not even looking at it like that. It's not even a biased thing. It's just like, if Fallout 3 didn't exist at all, we wouldn't even have New Vegas.
Perhaps in the mirror universe we'd have a totally different Fallout New Vegas. Because if Fallout 3 didn't exist, then Fallout 3 Van Buren would. I'm uncertain of the exact histories or timelines of Fallout Van Buren, ladies and gentlemen. That's more of a question for Father Elijahcal. If you're watching, feel free to add something in the comments below regarding. But Van Buren was something that was in the works by the original creators of Fallout at some point in the last 15 or so years that they were going to release. However, then they got the IP bought over by Bethesda.
And we would have Fallout 4, but some people might be happy if we didn't have Fallout 4.
That's quite the snarky little remark. I don't think I necessarily agree with that, ladies and gentlemen. I have no doubt that Fallout 4 and Fallout 76 have brought a lot of new fans into the series. People who may well have gone back to the start, back to the first Fallout game and started playing that one and breathed new life into the fan base.
But New Vegas would not exist if not for Bethesda's Fallout 3. It's just a simple fact. So for that alone, you should respect at least what Fallout 3 is.
Whilst I do respect Fallout 3 on some of its merits, I don't think you're correct in saying that without Bethesda's Fallout 3, New Vegas wouldn't exist. As stated, if Van Buren existed instead, I have no doubt that there would be games following on from it. Perhaps a bit different than what we saw in the New Vegas that we have, but it's definitely a compelling place to have a Fallout game. I have no doubt that it would have been explored in part of the, if they'd moved forward with the original games, that part of the West would have been explored into.
The New Vegas community is getting so toxic to the point that on my personal Facebook, I've seen somebody, there's this person on there that talks a lot about just Fallout New Vegas all the time. And they just constantly talk shit on Bethesda and Todd Howard and Fallout 3. And I can't remember what the post was exactly, and I'm just kind of, this isn't verbatim, but this along the lines of them saying they did not like Fallout 3, they played it for about 30 minutes and could not stand it and quit playing it. And all I can think of is like, you're talking about a Fallout game, and all you could put into it was 30 minutes, and you basing your entire judgment of the game off of 30 minutes.
I find this quite amusing because that's the opinion that I had of one of the Elder Scrolls games years and years and years ago when I had my Xbox 360. I had one of the Elder Scrolls games on it, and it started in a prison or something, and I played it for a little while, and I was still in the fucking prison, and I hated it, and I was like, well, fuck this, I'm away to play Fable. It's like saying that if you went to a restaurant for a 7-course meal, you have your starter and it's shit, you really don't enjoy it, you then don't particularly feel like you want to stay for the remaining 6 courses because you've had that bad experience. If a horrible tutorial is indicative of what the entire game is like, and the tutorial should be a taster of the game, and you don't enjoy the tutorial, why would you then want to stick around? Like I say, I played through the start of this Elder Scrolls game, really didn't enjoy it, and said, fuck this, I'm away back to play Fable 2 again. 30
minutes doesn't even get you out of fucking Vault 101.
30 minutes gets you an episode of your favourite TV show. 30 minutes can get you an episode of Star Trek Lower Decks. 30 minutes can have you doing something else that you maybe wanted to do. The thing is, nowadays with time, people have short attention spans. They talk about YouTube videos needing you to be interesting in your first 15 seconds or your viewers leave. Gaming, it's the same thing, ladies and gentlemen. As a game developer, you should not just be flippantly wasting your audience's time. Time is the most valuable commodity that anyone has.
You don't even leave the beginning of the game in 30 minutes.
That doesn't sound like an issue with your friend. That doesn't sound like an issue with the community. That sounds like bad game design.
So how the fuck can you tell me that you have an actual opinion on the game? You have not even given the game a goddamn chance. You haven't even been out of the fucking vault to explore the wasteland and even know what the fucking story is and play it yourself. Like, it's the dumbest fucking concept.
No, I think having a stupidly long, lengthy tutorial that is mandatory in a game is a god-awful stupid concept. Starwing on the SNES, you could start the game and just jump straight into action. If you felt like doing a training course, you could. It was optional. And I aced it. I'm a relic of a time when games didn't really have full-on tutorials, but they had manuals that basically gave you all of the information that you needed on how to work the game. People don't want to be handheld through the beginning of a game. For what is essentially a free-roaming open-world game, Fallout 3 is incredibly restrictive.
But that's kind of how toxic the Fallout New Vegas community is getting, that people don't even fucking play the other Fallout games, they just say that New Vegas is the best.
You're basing that on that one time that guy on Facebook said. I don't think it's that Fallout New Vegas fans are toxic. I think it's sheeple that use Facebook and idiots that use Reddit are toxic.
And I'm not just making this video based off this one person or because of this one person. As with most of my rants on the channel, it's something that I've been wanting to talk about for kind of a while, and then there's that one like person or thing that just kind of just pushes me over the edge and pisses me off, and I gotta fucking rant about it. And this person was it.
Jeez. With a friend like you, your friend doesn't need any fucking enemies, does he?
And something else I didn't really like about New Vegas, and this isn't even nostalgia or bias or anything like that, I'm not a big fan of the DLCs in all honesty. I love Big Mountain and I love Lonesome Road.
So you like 2 out of the 4, but you're not a big fan of the DLCs in all honesty. Right. That being said, though, I am in agreement that he likes the 2 that I like, so... Alright, fair enough, Dashing David.
But I wasn't a big fan of the Honest Hearts DLC. It wasn't necessarily bad. I love the environment of it, and I love that the map had rain on it. It was kind of nice to see weather in Fallout for the first time.
Whilst personally I don't mind the Honest Hearts DLC, I think a lot of people find the storyline with the tribals and the Bible stuff to be a bit meh. But again, that's down to personal opinion. I mean, I'm a lasers and robots kind of guy.
But I absolutely fucking despise the Dead Money Sierra Madre DLC.
Whilst now, as a older person, I quite enjoy the Sierra Madre. But when I was younger, I wasn't really a fan of the Dead Money DLC. I thought the characters in it were annoying and I just wanted them to die. And I couldn't kill them because it would blow up my own collar. But now that I've gotten older, I do quite appreciate it. I think there's definitely a certain atmosphere to that DLC, but I do understand that it's not for everyone. A game which has given you a great deal of freedom, is suddenly to have that freedom snatched away from you.
That is my least favorite Fallout DLC of all time, dude. And whereas with Fallout 3, I like them all. You know, I like Operation Anchorage, I like The Pit, I like Point Lookout, and I like Mothership Zeta.
Yeah, I think Fallout 3's DLC was fairly strong. It's just the main storyline, the main quest line that I don't really vibe with. If anything, the Broken Steel DLC, well, that really should have just been incorporated into the main game as part of the main quest, but that's merely my opinion. I think that one severely misbalanced the game with the enemies it added in. The albino rad scorpions being the main one. When you go somewhere and try to do something and you find yourself against these massive bullet sponges that just appear all of the time, and then you go to a settlement to do something and they just show up and they kill all the villagers. Like... yeah, the game design has sabotaged the game.
So, like, I just wasn't really a big fan of all the DLC for Fallout New Vegas. Like, Sierra Madre, to be honest, dude, I don't know what it is about it, and I know a lot of other people hate it too. I know a few people that kind of liked it or didn't hate it at all.
You're probably not enjoying the toxic cloud. That's very probably what you're not enjoying about it. You're not enjoying your freedom being taken away from you.
But I got into it about a quarter of the way or half of the way through the DLC, and I was just like, God damn, I just want this to fucking end so I can play Lonesome Road. Because I think I played them in order, if I'm not mistaken. All I know is I saved Lonesome Road for the last. That's what I know. And I just wanted this fucking DLC to end, and I legitimately did not enjoy playing it. And I mentioned this before on the channel, but it's actually kind of been a while. I think that Fallout 3 is the better Fallout game, because it feels like a Fallout game.
I'd say that Fallout New Vegas was the better Fallout game, because it has more echoes with Fallout 1 and 2.
The world feels like Fallout. And I think that Fallout New Vegas is just a better game, because it's a better RPG experience. With the variants and weapons and mods for the weapons and the way you can level up and the perks and the factions and all that shit, I think it's a better game.
I feel that Fallout New Vegas is a lot more balanced than 3 is. In 3, you essentially just became a walking tank full of perks that walked through the wasteland, Jesus-like, mowing down anything in your way with plasma weapons and miniguns. New Vegas, yeah, you power up, you level up, but every now and again you get that unexpected what the fuck happened death. It sort of encourages you to play a little bit smarter.
But I think Fallout 3 was the better Fallout game. Because in all honesty, when you walk around the Fallout New Vegas map, like, it doesn't really feel post-apocalyptic because you're not really in a city, you're in a fucking desert area.
Are we forgetting our conversations with Mr. House, who said that he disarmed a lot of warheads and that he shot nuclear missiles down with laser cannons mounted on top of the Lucky 38? I believe he said that only 7 or 8 nuclear missiles, hit the Vegas sort of area. The thing is, in that area where the game is set, people are moving in, they're rebuilding. They have been rebuilding for a long time. In the Capital Wasteland, there's virtually nothing happening. Everybody is essentially dead. And they have very little descendants in the Capital Wasteland area because, well, that's where America got nuked the hardest, is where the capital city was. Whatevs.
Of course, there's some destroyed buildings and towns and things like that, but it doesn't really feel like you're in a post-apocalyptic scenario. It just feels like a bunch of destroyed places.
A bunch of rebuilding places that are being rebuilt. You know, you rebuild after a place gets destroyed.
And to me personally, the DC Ruins area of Fallout 3 is better than like any location in Fallout New Vegas. I love the in and out of the subway tunnels, being able to walk down the streets and look at all the destroyed fucking skyscrapers and tall buildings, and you can go in some of them you can't, obviously.
I'm not particularly a fan of the navigation of the subway tunnels. I know that a lot of people dislike it, but I can see from a world building aspect the reasons for them, so I understand that. But when you say about like going into skyscrapers and stuff, like, there's not really that many buildings you can go into. The museums, Hubris Comics, Vault-Tec HQ, fair enough, but there's not much. There's just a couple of sort of dungeons in downtown DC that you can go into.
To me, that location of Fallout 3, and Rivet City too. Rivet City is one of my favorite locations in all of Fallout.
A couple of corridors and a floor that's been kinda double copy-pasted. It's alright, I suppose, but I wouldn't exactly say it was brilliant. I'm more of a fan of the Dunwich building myself, but perhaps that's because of its atmospheric storytelling. But, like the way that everyone has an asshole, everyone has an opinion.
And look, I'm not trying to shit on Fallout New Vegas. Again, it is my favorite of the series so far in terms of just overall how the game is. But I just want to point out some of the flaws with Fallout New Vegas, at least that I see in it. Because I'm sick of like seeing people with shit all over Fallout 3. Like, Fallout 3 is OG. Like, that's the one you have to like that one, or you can't like these other ones.
That's not how your First Amendment works. By that same token, what's your opinion of Fallout 1? Because if you don't like Fallout 1, you're not allowed to like Fallout 3. At least by your own logic. You know, Fallout 1. The OG one.
Because if not for Fallout 3, these other ones would not goddamn exist.
And if not for a really old school game called Wasteland, none of them would exist. Without Fallout 1, none of them would exist.
And none of the Fallout games are perfect. Fallout 3 has its fucking faults, so does New Vegas, and so does 4. None of them are perfect, but I just want to point out some of the reasons why I think that Fallout 3 is still a great game. It holds up to this day, I think. Now, if it came out today, if Fallout 3 was a brand new game and it came out today, yeah, I probably wouldn't think it's as good as I do think it is, but again, it's a fucking old-ass game, and for people to wait almost 10 years later to really start shitting on Fallout 3 seems a bit ridiculous to me. Like,
what's your opinion of English literature class? Oh, we're talking about old-ass books. Oh, this is ridiculous. Oh, no, we can't not like something because it's old. What about the Bible? That's even older, mate. People still criticise that every Sunday.
Yeah, of course, a game that's that old is going to have its fucking faults and problems. So let me know in the comments below if you've dealt with this toxic side of the Fallout community, the Fallout New Vegas, like, Master Race community. It's legit like the PC Master Race thing.
Yeah, his original video will be linked in the description down below if you want to go and see him and leave a comment and leave your opinion, ladies and gentlemen.
Where it's like, you know, people on consoles are just below you. And it's kind of how it is now with Fallout New Vegas. Like, you can't talk about 3 or 4 because Fallout New Vegas is Master Race. It's the best one, hands down. Don't get me wrong, guys. I still love Fallout New Vegas, but just part of this fucking community is starting to turn me on the game, and I don't like that. I don't like that people have that kind of influence over me. But they're starting to make me like not like the game as much as I used to, and I fucking hate it.
So the video titled "I Hate Fallout New Vegas," in it several times, I love Fallout New Vegas. I think our boy Dashing David is just slightly confused, ladies and gentlemen. However, that's pretty much the video. He goes on to pretty much shill himself, which, well, I'm not really here to advertise his social medias and all that. I don't mind advertising his original video, though. Like I say, description section down below. Give it a watch if you feel so inclined without me nattering on through it. It's maybe only about 10 minutes long. Anyway, I think that'll about do it for this episode of Let's Respond to People Talking About Fallout New Vegas. I have been StooDogg. I'll catch you next time. Other videos in this outro if you want to go and watch one. See you later.
Okay.